This video is 25 gunfighting stats learned from convicted cop killers. This video is based upon some excellent research that the FBI compiles about every 5 years. They interview offenders who murder police officers and who are incarcerated, and their goal is to see some of the background details behind these events, why these officers were murdered, how the officers selected them, what kind of events were they, what were they thinking, and the overall goal is to help keep police officers safer and just to learn what they can about how criminals are interacting with police and that kind of a thing. As I state in the article that's going to be linked down below, in a former life I was a Marine Corps intelligence officer, and part of my job was to kind of examine the tactics, techniques, and procedures that the enemy was using against us to see what, if anything, we could do as, in this case, concerned citizens and self-defense minded folks. And that's really the kind of impetus behind this article here. The first thing we're going to talk about in this video is the statistics for the victim police officers. You can see that they are 98% male and 2% female. The average age is 35, with average height and weight of 5'11 and 197 pounds. Race is 90% white, and the education, about half had a high school diploma and about half had a college degree. Now we're going to talk about the offenders' statistics and characteristics. 95% of them were male, 5% were female. They were generally 26 years old, 51% were white, and 49% non-white. The FBI doesn't really break down those statistics any further. Sorry, that couldn't be any more specific. They were an average 6 feet tall, 175 pounds. Education-wise, big difference here. Only 14% had a high school diploma, and only 4% had a college degree. Now let's talk about the event itself. Some details about when and where and those type of things. As you can see from the time frame, approximately 40% of these murders occurred during evening hours. The event type for the police were generally a disturbance call, an in-progress crime, or an arrest call. Most common assault location was the roadway, and the last bullet point you can see there is were others present. In approximately 40% of these incidents, there were other officers or persons nearby. And this goes to show you that a lot of these events are not necessarily a criminal seeing one officer and taking advantage of a one-on-one style situation. There's a significant amount where that wasn't a big factor in this. There were others present, even other officers present who could assist. The criminal still chose to murder those police officers. Lastly, we are going to talk about the types of weapons these criminals used and some of those details as well. The most common type of weapon was a pistol. Is most commonly chambered in 9mm. And one of the things that I think was most interesting reading the article was these criminals don't care what they're carrying. They may have some individual preferences, but they're not agonizing over 45 versus 9mm or this caliber or that, this make or model. They're just getting what they can get, and that's what they're using. The most common area that they carried these weapons were in the front waistband or the crotch, or small of the back. And that was one of the areas that was highlighted in the report, that oftentimes officers were very leery to search the waistband or crotch area for these weapons. Small of back was also one of the other common areas. 18 of 50 officers had been in previous shootings, so these were experienced officers who likely worked in dangerous neighborhoods. 16 of 43 offenders had received some weapons training, whether that's from another gangbanger or some formal weapons training from the military or another source. 37 of 43 offenders regularly carry their weapon. Another interesting note that I encountered while reading this pretty lengthy report, a fair amount of them actually would, I guess you could say, carry off body. They left the weapon either with a girlfriend, a friend, or they would place it, say, in the wheel well of a car nearby or behind a bush. They wouldn't actually carry it on them in the off chance that they were patted down by police, but they wanted to have it nearby. Hit rate of offenders on officers was 68%. This is pretty high, And this is most easily explained by this is basically an ambush. They're choosing when to initiate this conflict, and a lot, all it takes is a little bit of inattention, head turned the other way, talking to somebody else, and then they're choosing to initiate it. So they're going to have a higher hit rate. Officers were able to successfully hit the offender 39% of the time, which, after being ambushed, is I'd say that's pretty decent. Average range is 15 feet. And the average method of aiming is point shooting. These guys aren't really using their sights, and there's been some good research from Force Science Institute that shows that even people that have no weapons experience whatsoever can accurately point shoot out to 15 feet. And there's really no difference in accuracy from a trained shooter and someone who has no experience shooting out to that range. I'll try to that research is actually linked in the article, so go ahead and check the article out if you want more details on that. But it just shows you that even though someone may be holding that gun sideways or shooting it in a non-standard way, it doesn't mean it's not dangerous, and it doesn't mean they can't hit what they're looking at. And lastly, the percent of legally acquired guns used by the offender is 0%. These guys aren't buying these at gun stores. They're getting them off the black market, and they're getting them from friends. They're getting them in other methods. They're not doing background checks. Nearly all of these offenders would not be able to purchase a gun through background check, and they're not stupid. They know that. And they know people who can get guns. They get guns and they carry them. The one thing that I saw in this whole article was these offenders live a very violent lifestyle. Um, their whole life has been very violent. They've learned that violence is paid. So they have no qualms about using violence against police officers, about anyone else, and that makes them more dangerous than than you might imagine, because they don't care if they miss and hit somebody else. They don't care about spraying bullets through a neighborhood. Defense-minded civilians and police officers do care about those things, and they cannot just do whatever they want with their firearms. We are constrained by the law. These people are not. If you liked this article, if you liked this video, head over in the link below and get some more details about it, and make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification button. As always, stay safe and get out there and start training.